Let us continue in this journey to explore about photography and photojournalism with Mr. Selvaprakash Lakshmanan. Let us see what he has to tell us in this video.
Working with vernacular media is really a challenging and interesting area, because when you work with a vernacular magazine, and especially if you are working in a small town where you will ask you to cover civic issues like water issues, drinking water issues, road problems, electricity issues. So you really addressing some of the basic issues, so that will be featured in the newspaper, and there are higher chances that local authority will get to know that issue, and that will be fixed soon. And I have witnessed personally, after publishing those news and photos, within 2-3 days some of the issues are solved. So you have a personal satisfaction as a photojournalist or a journalist. You feel really happy about what you are doing, and some of the issues are not addressed by the national and the international media, are also covered by the vernacular magazines and the newspaper, and so you can focus on such issues while you are working in the small town. Sometimes the intensity of the issue is really big, then you can send those stories to your main editions. So there are higher chances, if they find it's more newsworthy to run it in the whole edition, then the story will be published in the whole vernacular edition. So that will give you a larger visibility of that specific issue which you covered in the small town or a village, which will be shown to the larger people, and then of course the decision makers also sees such newses, and there are higher chances to solve those problems. A week time before, you will get a email or a phone call to say like you have an assignment in Chhattisgarh or like a Rajasthan, and then the brief. You will get a kind of a brief from the magazine or an editor, so you will know what is the story you are going to do. Accordingly, you have to pack your equipment. Say if you are going to the coastline, or if you are going to and it depends what period of the time you are traveling. If it is a rainy season, is it a summer, accordingly you have to pack your equipment, and then you will reach the location. And largely these assignments are like 2 or 3 days, so you have to maximize the time to meet up the list of requirement they have listed in your email. So I said you will receive the email with a brief saying this is a story, these are the kind of image they were looking for. So you have to have those printouts in your hand so that you can refer it, what are the things you have done and how to plan those shoots in the next 3 days of your assignment. I usually the day I reach, largely like 1 day before I reach the location, that's how they will plan your travel. And the same day evening I will shoot the property where I stays, because some of the magazine will feature the famous hotel and restaurant and resorts which is on the specific tourist places. So I will shoot those properties on the same day evening, because shoot some architectural and the property photos looks really good in the late evening shots, and because with the lights that looks really beautiful. So I finish those property shoots in the same day evening, and then the next day early morning I trying to shoot the landscapes and the lifestyle shots also in the morning, because the golden hour is the best time to shoot the landscape pictures. And then the day then I will start shooting their food photography aspect, anything if they mention in the assignment list. In a travel magazine, they like to show what is the famous food from the region or the place or the specific tourist destination. So I will shoot those food photography in the day, and say like after my breakfast time, 10 o'clock or something like that, because that's the time the light is really harsh. I don't want to do the outdoor photography when there is a harsh light. So you can avoid shooting the outdoor in the broad daylight, because you will produce a lot of shadows in your picture. So I will shoot a lot of indoor photography, like a food photography and interior of the property. In case if you want to shoot in the daylight, you can shoot that in the daytime. And as I said, is there any historical places needs to be shoot, and then I will plan those things in the daytime. And again, evening time is the good time to shoot some landscapes and lifestyle images. Then I will plan those things in the evening. Late evening also I spend some time on the outdoor photography. So this is how I plan my assignments. So in the Chhattisgarh assignment, we were shooting. I was shooting a rooster fight. So I was using a 70-200 lens, and with my higher shutter speed, because it's a action, high speed action is going on. So I shot it in a 70-200 lens with a f2.8. So that will isolate the background so that you can see the rooster fight. You can see that high speed action in the photo. And even I did a Outlook Traveler assignment in Pondicherry also, and we have shot different properties, and I largely shoot these properties in the late evening light, because that looks really beautiful in the late evening lights. Yeah, I worked as a full-time photographer with Time Out magazine, which is a lifestyle magazine, and I also freelance for BBC Good Food. So when it comes to the food photography for magazines, it is not just a food. And say like in a magazine like a Time Out, we have a specific cover story on a specific food. Say if there some issues, they only cover about covering the cheese, different type of a cheese and different kind of a food, which is based out of the main base is a cheese. So you have to plan how you are going to shoot these food, because it's going to be a cover story. You will have a more than 4 or 5 different story which talks about the cheese. Are you going to keep a same kind of a visual approach, or you're going to have each one have a unique way of shooting? So in my approach, like I prefer to keep a visual consistency when they do a kind of a special issue on a specific food, and I will do a specific styling also I will follow. Styling means the way you have to keep your food, and then what kind of a plate you are going to use. The color of the plate is complementing the color of the food, or is it contrasting the food? How you are going to garnishing the food. So you should have a kind of a discussion with the chef, saying like how do you garnish this food, and what are the colors of vegetables or like a fruits which you are going to use it, which whether it is works photographically or not, because you have to tell them which color will works really well in a photo. So that will help the chef to garnish the food in a right way. And then you can shoot these food in an available light also, and you can shoot with the lights also. There is a general basic rule is I shoot food against the light. When you shoot the food against the light, you will get the highlights are really popping up in a photo that looks very appetite. That is another base rule. When you shoot a food photography, you have to keep it in your mind. When somebody looking at your food picture, they should have some sort of a feeling that they want to eat that food. That's the kind of a thing it has to emote when they see the food photography. That is the success of the food photography too. Then I always use a tripod to shoot food photography, because that is you are planning everything in a table or a particular place. You are not really moving around. So it's good to put your camera on a tripod and then you start styling it. And styling also, you can try different styling and how that looks good and things like that. And this will applicable in a magazine design aspect of it. So when you styling it, you just keep these things in your mind, the layout and text, all these things you have to plan it before the shoot, and that you can discuss with your designer, or you can discuss with your editor, or discuss with your writer how big the story is going to be, how many keys the story is, so that if the story is a very short, the keys are very less, it's a small story, then it means they are going to use a bigger picture. So you have to style it, you have to compose it in a wider angle, and they will sometimes they cut out the whole food and then they put it in the middle of the text. So then you have to shoot it on a white background. So when you shoot it on a white background, it's easy to cut it in a Photoshop. And the other rule is like when you shoot it on a white background, you have to shoot it on a high f number, then only you can have the details to cut the particular food or the product, then they can place it in the center of the text.
With commitment and passion, anything is possible, everything is achievable. Through the examples of Mr. Selvaprakash Lakshmanan, you have learnt that how much we can achieve if we strive and work towards our goals. We are going to continue to learn from him in our next video.